Chapter 6. After dinner, Leona felt much, much better. And because of that, Ophelia did too. Oddly, though, a delicious meal did not have the same effect on the other star darlings, who left the cafe seeming more irritated than ever before. Breakfast the next morning wasn't much different, though some arguments had changed. Sage and Cassie were bickering about hollow books. Cassie was certain that Sage had borrowed her copy of Once Upon a Starry Night. "I didn't borrow it," Sage said. "But I saw it in your hands," Cassie argued, her eyes blazing behind her star-shaped glasses. "I picked it up, it's true," Sage admitted. "But it seemed kind of boring, so I put it back on your shelf." Cassie's mouth opened in disbelief. "Boring? Are you serious? Once Upon a Starry Night is the best book ever. What's wrong with you?" "What's wrong with you?" Sage retorted. "And what's wrong with you?" Libby suddenly said, staring daggers at her roommate Gemma. "Who, me?" asked Gemma. They had their own squabble going about Gemma's housekeeping skills, which Libby deemed startacularly poor. "That's what happens from living on a farm. Messy seems normal," said Libby. "That's not true," Gemma's older sister Tessa said. "We had to be very neat, but Gemma could never get the hang of it." Tessa, meanwhile, had her own issues with Adora, specifically over their shared bouquet. Tessa thought the coral flowers looked much more pleasing on her green side of the room and clashed horribly with Adora's blue. Adora found the argument frankly absurd, however, as her hollow color wheel clearly proved. As they went on, Leona turned to Ophelia and rolled her eyes in a weary who cares arc. "Oh my stars," Leona remarked to Ophelia as they left the table together arm in arm. "Is it me, or did everyone wake up on the dark side of the moon today?" "So they aren't always like that?" asked Ophelia. "Oh no," Leona said. "Well," she rethought that. "Maybe sort of, lately, but never as bad as today." She shrugged. "Lucky us is all I can say. I was actually having the same problem with my old roommate until you took her place." She gave Ophelia's arm a happy squeeze. "We're like the perfect roommates. It's as if we've known each other forever already. Don't you think?" Ophelia smiled and nodded. "It's a cosmic connection," Leona continued. "For instance, I used to get mad at Scarlet for moving our flowers around too. But with you, I don't care. We're roommates. We should share." "What do you mean?" asked Ophelia. "Move what flowers?" "Where?" "Our bouquet. You know." They emerged from the cafe and into a misty, sparkly rain. Leona closed her eyes and turned her face up, and Ophelia did the same. "Did you know they say that the rain on Wish World doesn't even sparkle?" she asked Ophelia. "And that the lakes there reflect light, but don't make any of their own?" "Amazing," Ophelia said, nodding. "How do they get glitter into their star showers, do you think?" "Beats me." Leona shrugged, pulled out her star zap, and dialed up an energy bubble umbrella for them both. "Anyway, I don't know where you put the flowers, but it's fine. I don't care," she went on. "But I didn't move them," replied Ophelia. "You didn't?" Leona turned to her, just as the lights throughout the campus shifted spectrum, turning from warm white to rosy pink. "Time for first period already?" exclaimed Leona. "I guess I better get going to wish theory." Ophelia was on her way to wish energy manipulation. They arranged to meet up before Star Darling's class. "I always thought it was strange. You and Tessa and Adora being in that special class," Ophelia told Leona, as they made their way to the soundproof classroom where the secret class was held at the end of each school day. "And the others too, I guess. You all seemed so smart in all your other classes. I mean, doesn't Adora win the Astro Science Fair every year?" "So now you know," said Leona. "Lady Stella just made up that story to help keep our mission confidential. None of us likes it at all," Leona groaned. "But we're helping Starland, so it's worth it, I suppose." Their special Star Darlings lesson that day was about young wisher theory and was taught by Professor Illumia Wicks, who led her class by tossing ideas into space to see how far they'd travel and how bright they'd grow. "Star greetings, Ophelia," she exclaimed as Ophelia and Leona entered the room. "I heard there had been a Star Darlings replacement, but I had no idea it would be you." She whipped off her enormous star-shaped rose-tinted glasses and flashed a surprised but welcoming smile. Her wraparound dress, Leona noticed, displayed a constantly shifting pattern of stars and moons. It would certainly have hypnotized anyone who stared at it too long. "I see we're all here," Professor Illumia Wicks said, as Leona and Ophelia took their seats and let them adjust to their height and weight. "So let's go ahead and get started. Our star hour always goes so fast. This star day, I want to give you a scenario and ask you what you'd do. Say there's a young wisher who wishes for $1,000,000 in wishling currency." Libby's glittery arm shot up. "Trick question." She grinned. "Money wishes fall into the greedy category, which means we would never be called to grant a wish like that." "Ahem." "As I was saying," Professor Illumia Wicks continued, nodding at Libby, who lowered her hand to her lap. "A young wisher wishes for $1,000,000 in wishling currency, not for herself, but to pay for a new playground for her school, which doesn't have one. Now tell me, how do you help?" She gazed around the room as hands rose slowly. "Yes, Sage? Conjure a treasure? And help the wisher find it?" "Treasure. Interesting." The professor looked around the table again. "Any thoughts?" Vega frowned and raised her hand. "Yes, Vega. You don't agree?" "It wouldn't work," Vega said. "Oh? And why not?" "Any currency or jewels or precious metals we conjured would glow or glitter on Wishworld and give themselves away." "Ah, interesting point," Professor Illumia Wicks said, nodding. "Libby?" "Yes?" "Now you may speak." "I still think it's a trick question," said Libby. Gemma turned and asked, "Why?" "Because as soon as you attach a price to a wish, doesn't it take the purity and the truly good energy away?" "Ah, but does it?" asked Professor Illumia Wicks. Leona spoke up. "I don't think so. It's the basic reflective property of wishing we learned last week. If the wisher's heart is pure, then their wish has to be too." "Yes, but in a way, wouldn't that wisher's wish be selfish?" Cassie asked. "I mean, the playground would be for her, as a student at that school." "Correct," said Tessa. "And yet, it would be there long after she graduates and leaves the school. Perhaps, though, you could nudge her away from the $1,000,000 wish toward a different one, but one that would have the same result?" "Interesting." Professor Illumia Wicks's smile lit up. Such as the whole school community coming together to raise money," suggested Tessa. "Oh, I know!" Astra exclaimed. "She could organize one of those a-thons they do so much on Wishworld. A walkathon, or a jumpathon, or something like that. Or a cake trade, Gemma offered. They're always doing those down there. I think you mean a bake sale, said Professor Illumia Wicks. But yes, I like where this is going. Don't stop. Any more ideas? How about a fashion show fundraiser? Said Adora. Wishling garments are so dull, we know, but still it could be fun. You know what would be the most fun? Said Leona. A fundraising concert. And if it was my wish mission, I would sing, of course. Energized, she turned to her new roommate. What do you think, Ophelia? Ophelia stared back at Leona blankly. Yes, Ophelia. What do you think? You've been very quiet. Professor Illumia Wicks smiled. Don't be shy just because you're new. Feel free to jump in here and tell us what you would do. Go ahead, Leona urged. It's just... Ophelia winced as if her brain hurt. It's just... I'm a little confused. We didn't learn much about young wishlings' wishes in our other wish theory class, so I don't understand. And what exactly is a playground? She paused. Is there, a vocabulary list I could get, by any chance? A few giggles circled the table, along with a rainbow of raised eyebrows. Gemma snorted and threw back her head. What in the stars? I feel like we really are in a remedial class. She laughed. Like you know everything, Libby muttered across the table to her roommate, not at all under her breath. Gemma fired back a hot orange glare. I know this. You think you're so neat and perfect, but you're not very good at making your bed. That's only because you crawl over it to move those flowers. Why can't you just leave them on my nightstand, where you know they look the best? Zwoosh! A ball of light appeared in the professor's hand, and she tossed it to the back of the room. It skimmed right over their heads. The girls' mouths opened in disbelief. That's enough, said Professor Illumia Wicks, as the star darlings covered their heads. So much negative energy. She clucked and shook her head. The light ball slowed and returned to her outstretched hand, where it dissolved into a shimmering shower, spark by spark. Star apologies, said Libby. Yes, star apologies. Gemma looked down. Star apologies accepted. But all this bickering has got to stop. Now, she scanned her hollow notes. I'd like to spend the rest of the class on this idea of young wishful thinking. So if you'd all get out your star zaps, please, feel free to record my lecture so you can absorb it in your sleep. Ophelia, wait up! Leona hurried after Ophelia, who was the first starling out the door. Don't listen to Gemma, she said, linking her arm with Ophelia's. Every starling knows she has the biggest mouth in school. But she's right, said Ophelia, as they rode the cosmic transporter out the front door of the school. I'm so far behind the rest of you. I don't know where to begin to catch up. And it's not just that. I've seen some of the things the other star darlings and you can do with energy. And I'm nowhere even close. You'll get there, Leona tried to reassure her. It might take some time, but you will. But how? Do you know, when Lady Cordial first called me into her office, I thought I was being expelled. Do you know I got a D on my Wish World Relations exam last week? Really? Said Leona, stunned. D for dim was the lowest grade a starling could get. And it's not only that. You're so special. And the other star darlings, too. I don't fit in at all. and I don't see how I ever will. Come on! Leona took a sharp right, onto a path toward the edge of the campus. Where are we going? Ophelia asked. Leona pointed toward a thick grove of pink Aussie fruit trees, just past the campus border. It was her favorite place to walk and sing and think. A few berries? She winked at Ophelia. They make everything better, don't you agree? As soon as the cosmic transporter reached the orchard, Leona and Ophelia stepped off and walked between rows of tall, pink-leaved trees, heavy with ripe indigo fruit. Leona reached out and picked a berry for Ophelia, and another one for herself. Instantly, 2 new fruits grew in their places, just as big and juicy and blue. Shall we sit? Leona asked, settling in the grass at the base of the fragrant tree. As Ophelia sank beside her, Leona took a bite out of her Aussie fruit. Mmm, Leona said, as she chewed and dabbed at a stream of blue juice dribbling down her chin. Ophelia smiled. See? I knew these would make you feel better, and you haven't even eaten one yet. It's your mouth, Ophelia said, pointing. What? Leona glanced down at blue Aussie fruit juice stains on her fingers. Oh no! She laughed. Are my lips blue? She shrugged. Who cares? It's worth it. See? I'm not that special after all. Just above them, a delicate 12-legged rainbow orb spider was busy weaving her star-shaped web. The star silk stretched between the branches like shiny tinsel, flashing wherever the sunlight found it. Did you feel this way at first? Ophelia asked Leona. Like you didn't know why you were picked? Leona almost answered, sure, but then she realized that wasn't true. In fact, she remembered clearly how right being chosen had felt. Of course I'm a star darling, she'd thought, when Lady Stella assembled them the first day. And I'm going to be the best. Don't worry, she told Ophelia instead. It's going to get easier. Use your mirror mantra. It always helps me. Mirror mantra? Said Ophelia. Yes, you know, the words you recite when you need strength or reassurance. You can use it with your wisher, too. Ophelia looked at her blankly. I don't know. I guess I haven't gotten one yet. No? That's odd. Well, I'm sure you will. This is mine. You are a star. Light up the world. Leona grinned proudly. Nice, right? When you say it without a mirror, it makes you feel good and positive. When you say it on Wish World in front of a mirror, you can see yourself with your starland glow. Do you think I could use yours until I get mine? Leona's eyes brightened. Sure, knock your stars out. Then, suddenly, both their star zaps flashed. Ooh, what's going on? Ophelia looked down as hers began to vibrate wildly, much more strongly than it did for a normal alert. Leona read the screen, already knowing what it would say. Another wish orb's been identified, she told Ophelia. Come on! We need to get to Lady Stella's office ASAS, as soon as star possible. Not to the wish house? Said Ophelia, scrambling to her feet. The wish house is for regular wishes, said Leona. We have a special secret one, way under Halo Hall, for no other wishes, just ours. She quickly grabbed a handful of berries. For energy, she said. After all, who knows? The wish orb might belong to one of us.